Hello everybody and welcome back to M&J Games. I am Michael. Now in today's tutorial we're going to look at building a transfer track. And honestly this is one of my favorite things to do in the game. I know it brings in zero value to the guest, but it's something that really just adds a ton of realism. And so a couple things that I had to do in between tutorials. First one is I went ahead and put this hazard strip that's all black over on this side. So now it just looks more clean, it looks nice, I think it looks well. And we just did a basic station, nothing too crazy, just trying to show you, how you can use the normal wall pieces, how you can use wooden pieces for trim, and how you can use arch shapes representing the ceiling. So I'm just now realizing those are kind of sticking through a little bit. So I'll have to fix that. But what we're going to look at doing is the transfer track now. And I also had to move the entrance to this side. The reason why I had to do that was because I realized that I had the entrance going right over the area that I would probably need for the transfer track. Okay, so now it's really up to you how you want to make the transfer track. There's a couple different routes that you can go. One route that you can go is and I'm going to show you kind of an example of each. And so first thing that I'm going to do though is I need to get the colors right for this. So I'm going to go to the colors that we have for this werewolf. Alright, that's one of them. There's the other one. Alright. So a couple things that I can do. One of them that I can do is I can have a track that actually connects to this one and kind of veers off a different way. Okay, now the only thing I don't like about this coaster is I don't like it how it has, it is good having this protective area on the side, but for building the transfer tracks I wish we had an option to just use this walkway on the left. But that's not how it is, and there's nothing we can do about that. So one thing you could do is we could take the coaster, and we're going to build another custom coaster, I believe. Oh gosh, which one was this? Is this a stand-up? No, you gotta look at the colors. It's the floorless coaster. Which one's the floorless? Why am I forgetting? Werewolf. There we go. All right. So I don't care about the entrance. What I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get a level to where it's the same height, or as close as possible, right? So that's pretty close. It's maybe a little bit taller, so maybe I can, there we go. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use the drive tires here. Okay, now I'm not going to use the let's do one more drive tires, and you'll see, oops, wrong one. You'll see what I'm going to do in a second. So now I need to erase this station. So if I click on here, I can erase the entire station. So now what I have left is I have this one piece. Now I could end up using that, or I could not. And so I'm going to move this though real quick, simply because we're going to have this over here. So this is going to be the area that represents my transfer track. Now the key is I need this to be at least as long as the coaster. So I'm probably going to have to either extend this piece or make another piece. And so what I'm doing right here, excuse me, is I'm just checking to see how long it is. So when the train comes by, how much longer does this have to be? Okay, so maybe just a little bit longer. It's actually pretty good than what I originally thought. So one thing we could do is we could have, let me edit this. I don't know why it's going that way. Sorry, so what you can do is if you click, just click once right here, it'll allow you to go from that side. So one thing that you could do is you could have this kind of line up this way. And now, that's not perfect, but it's, so if we turn, let's see, if we turn the angle snap off, we can actually adjust it. And I like doing angle snap just because it makes it a little bit easier. But we can adjust it to where it goes almost perfectly. So now what you have is, in theory, you've got this, which the only issue is that you kind of see that wire going through. But what we now have is we can see that you would then have the coaster kind of back up on this track and go back here into this kind of warehouse that we're going to end up building. Okay, that's one way to do it. That's not my favorite one to do, but that is definitely an option. So now let me show you my favorite one to do, and then we'll build the building for it. But I like to build the transfer track first, and then go from there. So let me actually, and I'm not doing great with the controls tonight in terms of looking at the coaster. And every transfer track's done differently. And let me preface this. I should have said this earlier, but let me preface this by saying I am by no means an expert at this. I just watched a lot of stuff on YouTube, I feel like, before I really got to, before I played this game. And so this was one of the ones that was always fun to me, was doing transfer tracks, doing backstage areas, stuff like that. And so I'm by no means an expert. The way I do it, some other people might do it differently, to each their own, okay? So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create, because this is all the track that we need. I probably should actually scoot it up a little bit because it's a little close to that coaster right there. So we're going to need some areas for the maintenance workers to kind of move around if needed. So this is all going to be a maintenance area in here. What we need to do is we're going to need to place a custom support. Okay, and so I kind of look up here and see, okay, well, what are these supports made out of? You've got your cement block, you've got another mini cement block, and then I don't know what that's called, plus the pole, and then everything that's up here. So we're going to need to do the same. And what I'd probably do is I'll probably do two of them kind of where these are at. So now let's go over to create, and then if you go under here and here, framework, we've got all this coaster stuff. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be the same size. I mean, obviously it's good, but it doesn't have to be. So you've got all these different options. And I'm going to choose this one right here. Or you know what? That one's rounded, isn't it? So I'm going to choose one of the rounded ones, which is going to be this one. But what I'll do first is I'll place this cement block, and that's a large one. We don't actually need a large one then. Let's get a small footer extension. And so now I'm going to try to get this to roughly just a little bit smaller. And you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to put this, let me make sure it's in line. Alright, there we go. So now I can then place this small footer on top of it. I'm going to try my best to get the cement lined up properly. There we go. So look, it doesn't have to be perfect. That might be a little bit higher, and what we could do at the end is we can move everything down a little bit if that is a little bit too high. So now I'm going to take a small 4-meter pole, I'm going to move it down a little bit. So I'm trying to visualize it and see how close it needs to be. So that should be enough. So now here's the part where for me it's kind of hard to get to match it perfectly, but we've got one of those kind of flat pieces. So it'd be something like this, and then on top of it you've got another piece that connects to the track. So it looks like we've got this one, and then we've got one of these right here. So that one's a large, so it'd have to be this this short one, or small one, okay? So we're going to start with a small flange, or whatever that's called, but I need to, let's see, so that one actually won't map onto that. Is that the only one? We don't have a square one. Alright, well, this will do then. So now I've got the stick to surface on, so there we go. Yeah, sometimes the stick to surface can get a little bit annoying when in those instances. Like I said, this doesn't have to end up being perfect. It's up to you. And now I need to recolor some stuff. And look, this one, you know what, let's forget about that last part and let's just do this thing by itself. So now this is going to be, gosh, sorry guys. There we go. Alright, so it actually, I guess we didn't actually need that, we just got it underneath it. I always forget that this has got kind of the underneath part as well. Now all I need to do is I'm going to turn it the other way, because that's how they have it. So I'm going to turn angle snap on, and I always put it to 45 for the most part at least. So this is going to become yellow, or that kind of orangish. This one's going to be, that's going to be the green. Alright, so now it looks to be about in the center. So there we go. So I've got my first post done. Now what I got to do is I've got to create some sort of sliding mechanism for it. And so what I'm going to do here is I need to find the iron girder. And you can just kind of type in this, and it's going to pull this up right here. So I'm going to use the 4-meter iron girder. And what I'm going to do is, let's alright, because I need to align it to a surface. So that's my whole reason for doing that, was trying to align this to a surface. Now I need to flip it up. Like I said, I'm by no means any expert in this. I'm just doing what I've seen and what kind of makes sense for what we can handle in the game. Okay? I'm not trying to say, oh, this is how it's done, because this is not necessarily how it's done in terms of how it's created. It's not as realistic, right? So, now that I've got this here, there's one more thing that I need to do. Then I need to do the locomotive rail. Is that kind of gives it the look of, something that can slide. So I've got this 4-meter locomotive rail. Good. So now, so you see how it's got that kind of elevated part? That's going to look like the track is going to be able to slide on this girder, slide on this rail, and move across. So I'm going to put that in the center. There we go. So now what I can do is I can copy this, copy these two. I'm going to group them. Now I'm going to move them across. Now if you look, I think that, yeah, that doesn't quite match up perfectly, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go like that. There we go. So even if it's not quite perfect, like that looks to be a little bit off for some weird reason, most people aren't going to recognize that, right? So now what I can do is I can then move all of this so I'm going to group that scenery. So now I'll put this somewhere in the middle, and you see how the heights aren't quite the same, right? So what I can do is I can then move this down just a little bit. Okay. Now normally You know what, let's try something real quick because let's see if this works or looks a little bit better. Yeah, I like this a little bit better. Let's see, is this... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually copy and paste this, and I'm going to move it over a little bit here so that we see that we've got the rail going all the way through. Okay? So there we go. So now we've got an iron girder that connects to that piece right there. So that's one of them. So now I need to copy, and I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to move it up to here. So now, sorry, I had to exit out of the building. So there we are. So now what we have is we have ourselves the basics of the transfer track. So in theory, this track would transfer over, connect here, which I'm going to change this because this is obviously not parallel to it. And then the coaster would go in wherever that is. So now the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make sure that we've got the coaster right. And then once we do that, we got to decide, okay, do we want it to be indoor, like inside a building, or kind of open aired like that is? And I want to do inside a building just because I want to show kind of a cool trick that you can use for that. But we'll get to that in a second. So next thing to do is, actually, you know what, we'll do this part at the end. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this same building style, and I already know that this is parallel, so I'm going to use it on the same grid. And it just depends how big you want your building. Like, do you want there, like for me, I want there to be enough space. This grid size meant to do grid height. Okay, have to do with that. So you'll see what I mean when I want there to be enough space in a second. I might actually need to move this back a little bit, but that's all right. All right, so let me move this back just a tad bit. And I'll finish making the basics of the building in a second. Let me see if I can move this back one. Sorry, I'm trying not to make this tutorial video too long, but sometimes, you know, building in this game is not easy. All right, so now, and you know, that's close to that right there, but it's fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of get the placement ready in terms of what I want this to look like. So what I want to have is, I need to have some stairs, and I need to have, you know, some kind of flooring up at the level where that coaster is, but it doesn't need to be at the same height, right? Because if you think about it, like, it needs to be kind of waist high or something like that. So what I like to use on these is, if you go to ceiling pieces, flat roofs, I like to use these metal walkways. Let's use this green color. Let's see, does that, please don't go through the building? Ah, it does. Alright. Hate when it does that, because then we've got to split from building. And you know, maybe there's a more efficient way for this. Like I've said before, I'm not trying to pretend like I'm an expert at all this, because I am far from that. I'm just trying to show some tricks and tips that I've learned. And I'm not doing that end part because it's going to take a little bit, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Just like that one, how that one kind of overflows. Overflows, you know what I mean, kind of goes over the wall. So what I need to do is split from building. That's the only problem with using this sometimes, is if you don't get it just perfect or get the building perfect when building it, this can look not great at times. But so I'm putting this here. I'm gonna have this here, and then this last one. There we go. So now I can copy this one over. And that one's a little bit off, but then we'll just click on it, just hit split from building. There we go. See, now it doesn't look perfect right there, but it's also not terrible, because we're gonna have this whole thing covered in. So now what I need is, I need some stairs. So if I go here to decorations, and then I go down here, I can grab the stairs. Oops, wrong ones. So I can look, okay, little ones. Well, the little ones, that's not quite large enough. So that's not going to work. So then you can go to this large one, and if you need to, I know it doesn't necessarily look the best. Actually, you know what? That might be a good height. So now what I'm going to do is go down. That's not what I meant to do. That's what I was trying to do. Trying to get this as straight as possible. Now I'm going to put this over here kind of against the wall, or I can put it here. It doesn't matter. Either way, I'm going to put a little railing up over there so that nobody falls. There we go. So now what we have here is we have kind of a walkway to get up to your transfer track. So I also need to put a door in, and let me show you something really cool. I found this from Matt Lown. I saw him do this. I'm sure other people have done it, but I think this is a really great way to get doors that are different from your kind of big and clunky doors. So what I mean by that is, this is your normal door, right? Not that that's bad, but it's just there's no kind of like I mean, it's just it's very bulky. But I like using the firehouse door. Now I'm going to show you specifically what I do here with these, because I think this is really cool. Like I said, I did not create this. I saw Matt Lown do it in one of his videos. So then what you do is you got to make sure angle snaps on, and we're going to do 3 more doors that kind of border the door that we've already made. So what it does is it creates a little bit of kind of like a door frame, right? To where it gives it a little bit of that texture. So now I can go back to the height, but now I need to turn it and I need to make sure it's lined up. Oh, I had it. Alright, it doesn't have to be perfect because you're not going to be looking close enough to where you notice if it's perfect or not, like that. And then now to the other side. So now what we have is a little bit more of a textured door, right? which it wasn't, you know, I was kind of doing it quick there at the end, so not perfect. You see this one's not quite lined up perfect. So that's now a door that we have, and so now if we wanted to, we could take that and we can apply it. Apply it to a different building. Like right there. Nope, that's not meant to do. Right? To kind of show that you're going underneath there. So yeah, so this is going to be our transfer track area. Now down here, we needed to kind of deck it out a little bit, and we're going to do that. Like I said, you know, not trying to make this video too long, but I am trying to kind of show you the basics of it. We'll come back and finish the top of this building once we kind of put up some of the needed stuff here. So I don't know why I did that. Create, let's go to fencing. So I need to put up a quick little fence. So I'm just going to take the 1 meter fence, turn angle snap off. Now for the sake of the video here, so I'm going to keep this color black. And remember, this is supposed to represent, this is supposed to be like protective, right? There you go. So it's supposed to go up in the wall. It's supposed to not allow anybody to essentially fall. And so remember, you can use these side of walls as a way to help you get your whatever it is that you're trying to have aligned to that surface. Now I could color this one of the colors of the ride if we wanted to, but I do like the black. I just think the black looks nice. You know, it's traditional, but it still looks nice. Yeah, and one thing I'm sure everybody knows in this game, there's not very much stuff that you can do that doesn't take a while, right? This is not one of those games that you're gonna play for, and you can see those are a little bit elevated off the ground, so I'm gonna need to change that in a second. They're not quite. There we go. So now I've got those 4. Yep, there we go. So now I've got my little protective fencing, which will look better once we get the wall up and stuff. But now underneath here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, gosh, I always forget where some of this stuff is at. So I should have put everything out that I end up using. I'm going to go ahead and get an air unit. So I'm going to get a couple of these on the side of the building, and I'll do something with those in a second. So the filter, the pack that has a lot of the stuff that's good for this is the sci-fi theming, and it's not that that stuff's necessarily great. It's just that's got the materials that kind of align with it the best. Like you've got your cables, and so these are perfect. So one thing that I'm going to do right here is you've got this electrical cable. I don't know why the angle snap wants to. Alright, so now let me so then what you can do is you can take these cords or these cables and you can kind of run them from here. Like I said, not trying to say this is realistic and this is actually how it is, but then you can kind of run them there, and then we can kind of, you know, I like doing kind of like 2 or 3 layers of it, because you always have more than You always have more than one cable usually going to something, especially with something to this magnitude that's, you know, normally I try to line everything up, but since this is a tutorial, I'm not trying to take too long. I just want to kind of show you the basics of what I choose to do. And then eventually I'm going to connect these wires to some kind of cable box or something, to where it kind of like gives, like it's giving, you know, a signal and allowing stuff to move. So the other thing up here is this TV. So if I put this over here, I'm gonna put one, let's put one here, and let's put one on this side. Let's see if there's anything else in here that we can use. Yeah, so this one's good for like, I mean, it's bulky, it's clunky, it's not the best looking, but it is something that is good to be able to use, because I want to put this right here, because I'm going to run wires down to it. Yeah, so I need to actually move this thing down a little bit. So you know what? I'm just going to copy these. So I don't know why those three automatically kind of attach to that building. All right, there we go. So I'm going to split from building. I'm going to copy and paste these. And the reason why I went ahead and did this is because they're perpendicular to where I need them to be. So I could just easily then flip them, right? Let's see. So these are actually might go a little bit too far. So what I could do is I could actually, yeah, let me do it this way. You know, it's not going to be the perfect alignment, but it'll be fine. So now I'm going to take this computer and, you know, I'm trying to think, because I do want it to be able to connect. You know, I'll just move that thing down there too. So now I'm just going to move this computer here to where it looks like the wires are, gosh, I need to turn angles. Not angle snap, but you know what I mean. You know, it's not perfect, because I didn't really do the layout perfect here, but you've got some wires running to it. Now, one other thing that I want to build down here, and then we'll kind of deck some of this out with some of the studio stuff. And actually, you know what I'm going to do real quick? So I'm actually going to speed this part of the video up, but I'm going to place some fencing around. go back. More filters. Content pack, studios. And then this is where, you know, it's just kind of jumble it up. Now what you can also do, which what I like doing a lot, is if you go under scenery and then go under filters, that's not meant to do. Go under content packs, go to studios. They're gonna have some already pre-made stuff for you. So this stuff's gonna kind of go in here. You know, you can kind of fit it to do what you want. You can kind of have this sit down here. I'll probably have one of those on the outside as well. This. You know, for sake of time, I'm not trying to do too much. Let's put this kind of on the back side. Now, you know, usually I like to put some vehicles in here. So I'm going to put this truck in here because obviously, well, we're going to have trash that needs to go out. Usually like putting one of these in here. And you can actually color the side of that to say Planet Coaster on it. And I like these as well. Oh, I forgot there's one more thing I need to do. Yeah, so let me go back to this right here. Now, one thing that I have seen people do is they kind of use this ceiling piece here and kind of make a little level below here, and put some computers and stuff. Now you also have, if you go here to create, you know, you've got more boxes. What else is good? We've got, so, you know, I usually like putting kind of this stuff up here. I don't necessarily, you know, just for like, basically represents like storage and stuff. You know, and just kind of clutter stuff around, you know. Let me turn this to stick to surface. Just kind of creates clutter. Like you can look at that as kind of having an extra computer. You know, you've got some kind of equipment box. Let's see, what else do we have? I do like setting some of this stuff down, light scaffold, but I like kind of putting it on the bottom. You know, you got some, you know, you got kind of this palette down here. You know, let's go in here. So you can kind of set the palette in here, and then you can put boxes on it if you need to, or anything like that. Now this actually is cement, or it's supposed to look like pavement, but I don't really recommend ever using that because it's like we've got the terrain paint tool. So why would we need to use that? Now I do like having this, so I'll show you what I'm going to do with this in a second. But then we've got, yeah, you got your box trucks, you got all these different, you know, you got all these different crates, stuff, so you can make it look like there's stuff that had been shipped. You know, it's just kind of, you know, just kind of make it look jumbled, right? We don't have the privilege of having TMTK like the computer players do, so we just kind of make do with what we have. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. I do need to put a trash can out there, so I'm gonna put it right here. And now you see how everything's kind of you know what, sorry, let's do this. So all that you need to do, because it looks kind of crazy right now, doesn't it? So all that you need to do is once you place it, click on it, and turn it from loop to stationary. There you go. So now you've got a trash can. Now here we've got another pallet full of boxes, which since they're cardboard boxes like that, I totally can't see where I'm at. Alright. So since they're cardboard boxes, you know, it's probably something that would be inside. And this is the same thing kind of as that stunt, or, you know, it's kind of got a stunt pallet right now, right? I think it's supposed to be like somebody's fallen in it or something. But you just turn it to stationary and then it doesn't move. So you've got kind of that all decked out. Now there was, where are the cords at? Because I think the cords came with this. Or was that with something else? Yeah, the cords. So then, you know, I usually like to color these black. So this is supposed to be like extra electrical cords or, you know, something like that. That are just laying around. Yeah, you can kind of make them sit on each other like that. So you kind of got these cords hanging around. I feel like there's something else that I was going to use. You know, sometimes you can have the little light scaffold pieces laying down, kind of looking like it's clutter that's not being used. You got little newspaper pieces. Yeah, it looks about it. I'm trying to think, there was, so you got cones too. So, you know, I kind of like having some cones sitting out just for if anybody needs them for anything. Or if they need to put them anywhere, they just kind of got these here. You also have all those barrels, so you can put barrels and stuff out. I thought that came with the Studios pack, but I don't see the barrels. Alright. And then you got obviously the trash cans and stuff like that. And there's also one that's like a, it almost could be like a manhole cover in the ground, right? Looks like we got a trash can. And so, you know, there's just a lot of different things. It's up to you the way you guys want to do it. So now what I'm going to do though is we're going to finish off this building. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to place a garage, like a door. So a couple different ways you could do it. You could do elevator doors, because those work really well, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take wooden planks and I'm going to kind of just make my own here. So this one's that are a thick wooden beam that's 8 meters. So I've already got it lined here. I'm going to turn this to kind of a darker gray. Oh, okay, so yeah, sometimes I forget that I'm still on the coloring section. So now, I'm going to turn it this way, then I'm going to turn it like this. You know what, I did not need to get the 8 meter ones, I should have gotten the 4 meter. But we'll do it this way, we'll kind of have it in between the two. So now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to create what would look like, potentially, a door. And now you can leave like a little gap in there, because it's not realistic for that to be shut, right? So you can kind of leave it like this, or you can have it all shut, it's up to you, but I'm going to leave a little gap right there. So now that kind of represents where that's going to, and then just for a roof, you know, just trying to do something basic. Let's see what would work here. You know, I know this doesn't perfectly go with the station that we had. But for the sake of time, this will do just fine. Alright, so one last thing to do, or I guess two last things real quick. One of them is to put lights on. You know, we could add some trim around here. You know, if we click on this, we could add but, you know, one thing too is like, you know, think about guest view. They're not going to see all of this stuff necessarily. I mean, you know, maybe we could take this truck and kind of get rid of that one right now, which I don't know. Get rid of that truck and the tires. And you know, another trick that you can do for realism is if you take props and let's do art shapes, and we take flat and we take a small rectangle and you set it here. I'm going to color this light gray, or it could even be a little bit darker gray. It's up to you. And now I'm going to place it right there. So now what I can do is I can take the TV mount and I'm going to simply shift it back to where it's inside there. So now it looks like I've got a handle. Now you could go even further with this, and you can and then now you can so now it looks like you got a handle to it as well. And that looks like it could be a cable box. And then once again, I just need me a cable. So now then I can carry that over to the electrical unit. Alright guys, so as you can see, I've done a couple extra things here. Because after I recorded this video and was going to wrap it up, I decided I really wanted to make sure that I put everything on it that I wanted to. And I still didn't put any lights in the station. But as you see here, first thing I did was I added another rail right there. Another support and stuff. And so the reason I did that is I just felt like there's way too big of a gap in between, and I felt like it didn't look as great. And then I had to copy what I made over here and paste it over here, and so it doesn't look any different than the other two, does it? It looks the exact same. And so that's the key with this, is you want to try to make your support look as close as you can to this. I know custom supports are difficult. I've never done it on a full roller coaster. I'm going to try it at some point, but I know that's going to be a tedious task. But I think that looks really good, adding that third rail, and you can't tell that any of these supports are different, right? Like, it'd be hard to tell which ones were made by me and which ones actually came with the game. And so I feel like this coaster is pretty easy to do those type of supports with. And then another thing I added over here was I added a ladder so that the workers can get up here if needed. You obviously can also get up over here. Oh, I didn't even realize that. I need to get rid of that. Can't believe I didn't even realize I had that. All right. So let's get the HUD back off the screen. There we go. And then I also added this chain link fence here, and you know, I love path interaction. That's one of my favorite things to do with roller coasters. Try to figure out ways to have it interact with the paths. And so I love the fact that when I made this coaster, it goes right here by the path, and you've got this chain link fence here to protect the guest. Even though guests don't care at all because they're computers, they're programmed, but for me it's cool. And I didn't put windows there like I probably should have, but I put windows here on the side, and then here on this side, and then I put some lights inside. Now one thing I also did as well is I put some girders up there as kind of supports for the roof a little bit. I probably should have put something up to the top of the roof, but it also kind of hides a little bit of that clipping that you see, which we don't really see it this way, which is weird. But it's because I didn't properly plan how long the building was to where it could use 4-meter pieces the whole time, so stuff's clipping a little bit. And that's fine, that's bound to happen. But so now, as you can see, I added those as kind of supports. And then another thing I did too is I switched out the door. And the reason was with this door right here, which I love doing this door, but if you're going to do that to inside the building that you're decorating, you can obviously see the that portion of it. So I didn't want to see that, so I just changed this door, and I kind of tried to make it the colors of the coaster. And so one thing to make sure is if you're doing it on one side, you got to do it on the other side, and you just flip the door around. And then I did another door back here. So now let's look at this at nighttime, and then we'll wrap up the video. So I just use these coaster lights. I know they can be kind of bright, but I like the look of them. The studio lights, those are probably my favorite to use in the game. And you know, looking at those on the outside and stuff. And so here is the final version of our transfer track and maintenance area. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think of this? Was this helpful? How do you go about creating your transfer track? But for me, I love trying to make it as realistic as possible, at least from what I've seen in real life and seen from other creators' videos. And to me, I think this looks pretty realistic. So remember, as always, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd really appreciate you to subscribe, because it really helps the channel out and helps give us support. And I hope you have a great rest of y'all's day.